As we talked about earlier, the goal with the network is to make that distributed fabric feel like it's all one piece. And the secrets to this is around policy and orchestration, get out of managing boxes, do that over the widest connectivity fabric possible. So one of the distinct and unique things about SteelConnect as an SD-WAN solution is that it expands from the hybrid WAN to also the wireless edge, which you'll see demonstrated today, and easily into cloud connectivity. And third is to have that all integrated into the same connectivity fabric. Now I am going to skip a few slides to make up a little bit of time and just tee up some of the key things that you're going to see in this session. Vivek is going to go through a demo catching you up on the overview of the SD-WAN and some of the things that are capable here. What we added recently this year is an easy button to connect into Microsoft Azure from a cloud connectivity standpoint. That's number one. That augments what we had available for you in terms of AWS connectivity. So he'll demonstrate an easy button to create a hybrid cloud environment. Two, earlier this year, Riverbed and Xeris joined forces. And so Bruce is going to show how now the wireless edge and SD-WAN can all be managed with the same policy framework and approach to software-defined networking. And three, we're going to demonstrate brand new integrations that we've done with Zscaler that allows us to create policies that will steer traffic into that cloud, and a conversation around how to evolve your security perimeter and posture as you start to adopt more cloud.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vivek. I'm with Tech Marketing. I will be doing a demo today, a live demo with real live appliances and live sites. So what you actually see on your screen.
Oh, you brave man.
We're pretty confident of our product, so it's a good demo to show. What you're looking at on the screen is the web console of what we call the SteelConnect Manager. That's our SD-WAN solution. You're looking at the network of a company called Global Realty. They have a bunch of sites. All of these sites have appliances. As Josh was saying, it doesn't matter what the kind of appliance it is. It could be a physical appliance. It could be a virtual appliance residing on an ESX host, or it could be a cloud appliance. We treat them all as a single unified fabric. So you'll see here that I have physical appliances here. I even have a cloud site here in Azure. And I have a site here already deployed in AWS in Seoul. And this is a VPN tunnel between my site in Azure and AWS. So we don't care what cloud provider you want to work with. We will provide you not just connectivity, but optimized connectivity between all these sites. My goal today in my demo is to show you three different things. First is I'll show you how I got to this point in configuring my network. I have all these 15 or 16 sites. I'll show you how easy it is to configure these sites, whether it's a physical location, or number two, if it's a cloud location with what we call one-click cloud connectivity. The second thing I want to show you is really application-defined networking. Once we understand applications, it gives us a lot of power to define how we dictate how our traffic goes in our network. The last thing I want to show you is how we can manage security for our network, because for every organization, security is important, and how we've natively integrated with Zscaler to extend that posture, that security posture from the data center to the edge. So let's get started. The first thing I want to do is create a physical site. You'll see I'm going to go to Network Design and Sites. This is a list of all my sites. I'm going to click here on Add Site. I'll create a new site in Dallas. This is pretty much the only typing I'm going to do in the entire demo. I'm going to click here on Submit. And the moment I do that, there's a lot of automation happening in the back end, which automates a lot of the connectivity in terms of a lot of the networking in terms of the zones created, the uplinks created, and all of that. But once I have that, I can design my entire network from ground up, even without having a single physical appliance in my hands. The reason I'm able to do that is because I can go here under Appliances, add an appliance, and I'm just going to register a hardware appliance over here. I'm going to enter the serial number of that and deploy it at my site in Dallas. And the moment I click on Submit, what's going to happen is that this appliance, this physical appliance, is already plugged into the internet. It's going to know to connect to my cloud services in the cloud, to my core service in the cloud. And it's going to know what organization it belongs to based on its serial number. It's going to download all of its configuration and then come online. So just by doing that, I've provisioned a new site in Dallas, which will now also, by the way, connect to all my other existing sites automatically for me. So gone are the days when I would have to create all these individual Ipsec VPN tunnels to all my existing sites. I'm now going to go from, let me just make sure that the Wi-Fi here, okay, I'm going to click on Add Appliance, register hardware. The Wi-Fi here, because we have multiple Wi-Fi, sometimes it doesn't always work. So what's going to happen once that actually does come online and connect to the network is it starts creating all these tunnels to all my other existing sites. So the next thing I want to show you is how to connect to the cloud. You'll see here that, by the way, my appliance is already coming online. It's online. Now it's going to connect to all my other existing sites. It's going to form all those Ipsec VPN tunnels. Let's do the same to the cloud. As I was saying, it's really, we call it one-click connectivity. It's very easy to connect to the cloud. And think of the use case as this. You have a lot of app developers. We have a company that's an existing customer whose developers want to move a lot of their code and the existing infrastructure to IaaS providers. And they want to be able to have their own individual networks, their own individual subnets in their VPCs, but also want to be able to access servers to all of their other existing physical sites. We make that happen very easily. So I'm going to go to AWS over here. And let's say I'm going to click to connect to all my subnets in Tokyo. So once I click here on Connect, it's going to create that site for me. And then it's going to give me the option to go ahead and deploy an EC2 instance of my gateway along with my WAN optimization appliance of my choice. So when I click...
I want to make sure I understand this. So when I hit connect, VPC, I'm going to get either an IPsec subnet or I'm going to get an IPsec to the VPC. Now I have an aggregate route for all the subnets in that VPC.
And all that routing, instead of you having to log into your AWS console and you having to add those routes manually on your route table, along with creating your internet gateway and all of that, we take care of all of that.
So you guys are not replacing the AWS gateway.
No.
You're actually just using APIs to configure the new routes within the...
To go through our gateway.
Right. Okay.
And of course, it's going to go out to the internet using Amazon's gateway, IGW. But all that routing is something that we manipulate so that so that it connects to not just the internet, but also connects to all of my other existing subnets across my entire network.
And there's the Ipsec VPN AWS's Ipsec VPN service, or is this an appliance that you guys built?
This is an appliance that we built and we're hosting in AWS.
Okay.
So when I click here on Connect the subnets, you'll see that when I click here on Deploy, I have the option to deploy our gateway and an EC2 instance of our choice. I'm going to leave this to medium. And because I want end-to-end optimization also, I'm going to choose T2 medium. Of course, there's high availability. I'm going to leave that to on. And this is really the key source of this, where AWS routing is automated by us. You won't have to do anything manually. The moment I click here and deploy, what SteelConnect is going to do is it's going to log into my AWS console. It's going to look at all of my VPCs. It's going to look at what VPC and what particular subnet I want to connect to. It's going to plop a gateway. It's going to plop a WAN optimization appliance. And then once it is provisioned online, it takes about 7 or 10 minutes while this is happening, and you'll see everything that's happening in the log messages below. But once all of this is done, it's going to form a full mesh of Ipsec VPN tunnels to all of my other existing sites. So I just went from having, so by the way, my Dallas site is already up. So when I click here on Dallas, the one that I just created, you saw that my tunnels went up from 120 to 136. And now this is going to go up even further. to my site in AWS. And the workflow is really that simple, even for Azure. We don't care.
Nagasaki.
I'm sorry?
You have an alert in your Nagasaki office.
So this one is coming up now. That's why it shows as red. It's going to take a few minutes. But the other one, this one in Seoul, is already up. The one in Tokyo is, as you'll see the log messages as I go ahead in the demo. It's going to.
They have great internet bandwidth in Seoul, so that explains it.
We're also restricted a little bit by the amount of data we can send in and out of AWS. But consider this. It would take us weeks, if not days, to bring up a new site in AWS or Azure and also connect it to all my other existing sites. And now we can do it while maybe I go and grab a cup of coffee.
So how far up does this go? Do I already have to have a pre-existing VPC, or can you orchestrate actually creating the VPC for me as well?
Great question. We don't create VPCs. We don't interfere or leave any trace, so to say, in your existing cloud infrastructure. All we're doing is we're logging into your AWS account and looking at what subnet we can plop our gateway in so that we can route the subnet that you want to connect to route through our gateway. Now, when I go ahead and undeploy my gateway, I won't change a single thing in your existing VPC infrastructure. When I undeploy my gateway, all I'm doing is removing the routes, and I leave no trace.
So the only disadvantage, well, I don't know about only, but the primary disadvantage is I'm limited to the bandwidth of the EC2 instance that at least with the IPsec out. Internet, right. I get AWS internet, but right. coming out and in egress to the VPC in my private network, I'm limited by that M2
Yeah, and you get to choose what instance that is, and we don't. Yeah. It's not something that we pick. It's actually what Amazon offers.
How much I'm willing to pay for bandwidth
exactly.
from an EC2 instance.
Exactly, it's how much you're willing to pay for. So as my appliance, you'll see a lot of log messages below. As my appliances are coming up online, I'm going to move ahead to the next part of the demo, which is application-defined networking.
Let's go to Zscaler next, and then we can go back if we need to on the app-defined networking, just in terms of time. Yeah.
Cool. Security is important. Everyone talks about the cloud. Everyone's talking about digital transformation, but we all know it's not as easy as we think. So typically, organizations have different phases that they take, different steps that they take in their path to digital transformation. And I'm trying to find the right whiteboard here. But we've got the data center and the edge, going back to that entire concept. The first thing that a lot of data centers do, and Josh can probably help me fill this table as I'm speaking, is we're looking at how does the edge get out to the internet, and how does the data center get out to the internet today. As of today, the data center goes out direct to the net, but a lot of branches will backhaul to the data center and then go out to the internet. The reason being, as much as we'd like, we probably can't have a full-fledged advanced firewall gateway at each of our hundreds of branches. That's the phase one that we're in. So data center is going to go direct to net. Branch is going to backhaul from the data center to the internet. Phase two is you have the option with application-defined networking to open that spigot just a little bit to have some trusted SaaS apps to go direct to net. So maybe for Facebook or Salesforce or Office 365, you can dictate your gateway to go direct to net. But for a lot of other recreational apps, you can still say, go through my data center and out. Let's take that a step further. In the third step of digital transformation, a lot of edges are considering what we call the cloud security gateways, the cloud firewalls. And what we've done is we've integrated with one of these cloud firewall vendors called Zscaler, as a lot of you are aware. And we've natively integrated that with SteelConnect Manager. So that when I go here under network design and Zscaler, I can maybe create a default rule for my entire organization, regardless of how many sites I have, to say that all my traffic go out to the Zscaler cloud, be inspected over there and scrubbed over there, and then go out to the internet. So we've preloaded the Zscaler clouds in our SCM interface, going back to that concept of single pane of glass. You won't have to log into AWS, you won't have to log into Azure, and now you won't have to log into Zscaler. All of this is, we're automating that process of creating all these tunnels from each of your individual branches to the closest Zscaler nodes for you, depending on the Zscaler cloud that you want to use.
Right, so it'll go from your branch to the Zscaler cloud.
Yes.
Get scrubbed there, and then internet.
And then out the internet.
Back.
So, for example, if this is my Zscaler, so these are all the different Zscaler nodes available. I can look at this site over here in London, and I can choose to deploy either automatically, let SteelConnect Manager choose the 2 closest Zscaler nodes to that particular site, or I can also choose individual sites manually where I can pick whatever Zscaler node I might have a preference to. The benefit of this is that instead of you having to create these tunnels individually and manually from all of your branches to your Zscaler cloud, you're now able to do it automatically without having to worry about all of these, calling Zscaler up, finding out what their IP address is, entering that in your machine, and then giving them your public IP address and all of that. This also gives you, because we treat Zscaler as a cloud, I have the option of creating a default rule for my entire organization, saying that as a default, break out to the internet through Zscaler. But I can also create individual rules. For example, my traffic path rules, where I can click here on a new traffic path rule, apply this rule to all my sites, all my users, and selected applications such as trusted SaaS apps, which is an application group that I've already pre-created. Yeah. Here under path preference, I'm going to say, you know what, for my entire org, yes, I know I'm saying that break out to Zscaler by default, but for these trusted SaaS apps, there's no reason why I wanted to go through the Zscaler cloud. Right. I wanted to bypass that. So I'm going to say go direct to internet. If there's something wrong with my internet connection, use my MPLS connection as a secondary. And I also have something called path quality profile, which means that I'm creating this rule, but if there's severe degradation in my internet connection, then override this choice I've made based on a dynamic polling that I'm doing on both my internet and MPLS connection. So I'm going to say, because it's a latency sensitive metric where I'm polling for latency, jitter, and packet loss, I'm going to select that, set a Qos priority to high so that this traffic is given the due it deserves. Click here on submit. The moment I do that, and this is of course change control, the moment I click here on, this rule will now apply to all my sites. Yep. And that's the power of application-defined networking, which allows me to dictate very, very granularly how I want my traffic to be sent across my network.
Okay, so now I'm bypassing
Zscaler
for trusted SaaS apps. Where's NAT happening?
Where is that happening?
NAT, network address translation, from a branch.
Yeah.
Your private
it's
address.
Happening at your branch. So the NAT is still going to happen at your branch. But because the application identification is done at the very gateway, it knows right from the first packet that this needs to be sent out to the internet, or if it needs to bypass Zscaler.
Okay, and then I don't know if anything's changed. Can I view QoS information now? I know I couldn't before. I can't. There's not really a way to see much of your QoS, but.
You can, so when you say you want to view QoS information, what exactly, for the traffic?
Well, I mean, so how can I look at different metrics in terms of QoS? How can I see?
You can set, by QoS over here, we can set individual DSCP tags. So when traffic comes to the gateway with a pre-configured tag, and you haven't already configured it with, and you haven't created a rule to configure it, we will honor that tag.
Right, but how can I want to look at the policy and see the statistics on it. How much traffic am I seeing that's
right?
Getting...
So what you're talking about is visibility.
Yep.
And we also do provide that. We have, there's another product which is being integrated into this. It's called Steel Central Insights.
Okay.
And that will give me a lot more detail into what my applications are, what path they're using, who my top users are, who my
that's perfect.
How much bandwidth I have, and all of that.
Okay.
And
yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the math behind this and the complexity. One of the tough things about doing this manually is that we don't, as admins, we don't have the computational power to do this manually.
Right.
The infrastructure behind this, is this a SaaS offering? Is it an on-premises thing? How big is the back end of this?
Both. What I'm showing you right now is the SaaS offering where the SteelConnect Manager's orchestrator is residing in the AWS cloud. But we also have an on-premises controller that you can have in case you want all your traffic to be.
How do you determine the best path?
The best path between your multiple uplinks. You can either determine how you want your traffic to go, but you can also say your choice will be overridden if based on these metrics that we're polling for on the two different uplinks, MPLS or internet.
So you leave it to the user to decide.
Yeah. So over the secure VPN, along with every packet that's going, we on occasion will send some additional metrics that allow us to know what's the latency, what's the packet loss, what's the jitter. And what we've done is tried to keep it simple in the first phase. So if what you care about is an application that you want the best path in terms of lowest latency, least amount of loss, least amount of jitter, it's really just a single button that you need to select. In a future version, we might give you more control to say, gosh, if you happen to know exactly the latency that you want as the threshold, we'll add that into the language.
It still leaves a lot to be, for one, any threshold-based stuff is kind of a dangerous thing to get into, especially when you're having to manually manage that kind of stuff. So, and if you have too many, different paths that are possible, then you would want some, but do you leave it up to the user to determine their own algorithm to direct traffic based on the metrics you provide, or do you attempt to help them decide?
Think of it this way: the user configures a preference. So I've configured the preference where I say I want my traffic to go over internet as primary and MPLS as secondary, but I also have this path quality profile, which is very dynamic, and it will override my preference. And this intelligence, the intelligence behind this overriding of my preference, is something that we determine for you as of today. And there's different buckets that we have for applications where we say that if your latency goes beyond this particular number, or if it's below this, and path loss and jitter goes beyond, it's within these buckets, because as we know that you can't have hard set numbers
So how do you determine the thresholds?
So
in this case, it's best. So right now, what you're saying is for the latency sensitive metric, pick the link that's exhibiting the least amount of latency, least amount of loss, and least amount of jitter.
Exactly.
Just on a relative basis, the least.
Okay,
Yeah.
Right?
it's relative.
Yeah. And now in the future, if you happen to know a particular threshold that you want, we would let you plug that in as well. But right now, it's based on what's best. And then the comment you made about it's becoming more autonomous, I think is a big point, right? Where these software-defined networks that are more dynamic, they're starting to make choices sort of on your behalf without having you to do it manually. And so what's really important is that visibility to know exactly what's going on so that you can actually see the system at work. And that's what's going to happen where you can actually go back, through the Steel Central Insights that's a part of this. And after this, we can show you. We just don't have time today, but it's in the product today.
And that's why I asked about that, because I know I can select, the best and let you pick for me.
Right.
But at that point, I'm not really a network operator or a network engineer. I'm just someone clicking buttons and letting you figure it out. Right. And I got to just trust that it's going to work.
Exactly. So
but I don't know what it's doing.
Trust but verify, right? It's really important in these more autonomous situations.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we can follow up with you and show you some of the insights pieces. I think we're gonna need to move on to that next piece of the network, which is wireless, right? So in this piece, you saw zero-touch provisioning, one-click cloud connectivity, how to manage security, as well as treating your policies from an application-defined standpoint.